Hey, alumni friends, welcome to another NHCC Alumni Coffee Break. I'm Troy, the alumni guy, and I am thrilled to welcome to the program Chris McSweeny. Chris, man, you came to that pop-up event of ours early on in September. Man,
Yeah.
that was fun to see you there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Honestly, community outreach and engagement events like that are just they're invaluable to both our alma mater and NHCC as a whole. You know, it, in general, like I wish I could go to more of those.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you start tying in other things like family and all of that, I mean, it's not an excuse, but generally it's really invaluable to be able to see younger people and to hear all these other NHCC alumni engagement stories, and just see how much impact it really had on others' lives as much as it had on mine as well.
Yeah, I felt the same way. We had 37 folks come to that first event, and what a great opportunity. Like you said, sharing leadership stories, reconnecting and networking. I hope to jumpstart those again soon. We did two more after it, and then the pandemic came along, and so yeah,
Yeah,
it
that'll
changed.
definitely that'll definitely put a damper on it.
Absolutely, but we'll come back. We'll come back, and you'll be leading the front again, Chris. It was awesome, awesome, and I was really struck off camera, and I joked with you about how eloquent you were, and I wish I was recording at that moment, but we weren't.
Well,
You were
you
very
know,
articulate
you
about
know,
leadership. Yeah,
Well, and another thing with those events, the thing that I really enjoy about it, and the thing I love about NHCC that I haven't found at either of the other educational institutions that I've gone to, is that instead of being a number, when you go in an event like that, you feel like you're in a room full of family, and that family really drives home, how much impact that the school is really bringing on these people's lives, and really driving home the opportunity for changing one's life, and whether it be support financially, whether it be support through staff and faculty. I personally could name several faculty members that really addressed and pushed me outside of my comfort zone and got me into different positions to meet people, to learn a lot of things. Like for instance, at Student Life, when I was working there as a work study, Tarjay and Lindsay really pushed me to go to this leadership event, and I was a little hesitant at first, but they got me to go.
yeah,
And at this leadership event, the speaker was pushing to bring somebody up on stage, and it's like, well, why not? Like, I'll go up there. I don't know what he wants me to do, but I'll get outside the comfort zone.
yeah.
And I get up on stage, and he says, okay, I want you to break an arrow on your neck. And and everybody in the room kind of got that eerie feeling, and I was like, oh, okay, like I just had a kid, and this is, I don't know what my wife was gonna think at the time. It was very uncomfortable, but the lesson that he taught us there is, even though you may be scared, even though you may be immensely uncomfortable going through something, you really can find the courage in yourself when you get uncomfortable, and it really helps you to grow the most. And
Yeah.
it's little things like that at NHCC where your instructors, your faculty, like the faculty, they'll push you outside your comfort zone a little bit, or they'll test you a little bit more. And that's really the key to success, not necessarily just at NHCC, but just in life in general. And you're pushing yourself to grow professionally, but you're also pushing yourself to grow personally, and NHCC really drove that home, especially with the family like setting as opposed to being a number.
That's awesome. And I know that you got to play a significant role in the branding of new branding at North Hennepin.
Yeah, things like that, for any future students or any current students that are looking at stuff like that, I highly encourage, go get involved, go visit Student Life, go visit Diversity and Equity, go get involved with clubs and other memberships. Like, you don't know what those opportunities may bring, in terms of, not necessarily leaving your own lasting legacy, but also like you're building a legacy forward for the school in certain ways that you can really make a dramatic impact on others, as well as also taking home like these different opportunities that you never even knew existed. And it's like I said, when you get uncomfortable and you go try something new, that's when you're going to grow the most, and that's when you're going to learn the most. And that things like the branding initiative and like hiring committees, those were immensely invaluable because it helped me to build relationships with faculty members and other students that, to this day, I still keep in touch with them as best I can. I know I've been a little bit of a slacker with some of my student life peeps, but it's definitely, in the middle of a pandemic, it's a little harder to kind of make that arrangement too. So
yeah, I think Tarjay and Lindsay would be very forgiving on that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you, man. You went on to St. Thomas and got a 4-year degree, and you are gainfully employed, and you just had a son not so many years ago now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it keeps you busier than ever, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you look like you're none the worse for the wear.
Yeah, well, it's work, and even going through school, it's not just about the academia. Like I said, it's also a personal journey. You're learning a lot about yourself. You're learning a lot about who you are, who you want to be, and the interesting thing that I learned just more recently is we always talk about building our brand, right? And thank you, Professor Prenslow, because that was a really, really good thing.
Brady.
But I find we also generally need to be humble around that too, because in building a brand, it is important, but it's also important to remember where you come from and take initiative to instill the opportunity that you've got for others through whatever means you possibly can, because that's why I love your engagement events for the alumni to like the fundraisers, sorry, I'm blanking out a little bit on some of that, but the fundraisers and like the scholarship opportunities and driving things like that home, because genuinely that's immensely invaluable, especially for certain students that are just they need things like that, and they need that kind of support. And in terms of being alumni, I feel we have a major responsibility to make sure we're driving home that same opportunity that others gave us.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. The pay it forward dynamic is what you're alluding to. And yeah, I'm excited actually, Chris, you mentioned that. So it's a great chance for me to say, nice segue. Audience, we did not plan this.
No, we did not.
I am working with career services right now with an area that's called mentoring. It's actually a partnership with Hennepin Technical College, but the staffer is with both of our institutions running a mentoring program. And we have an internship program as well. And we are partnering on this very site. You saw an earlier coffee break with Karen Philbin, our career resources director, but we are moving toward giving more opportunities for alums to be able to, if they want, to pay back and pay it forward and engage with current students. Because like you're pointing out, Chris, this is invaluable. I mean, the things that you have shared with me today are so important for a new student to hear. It's the things that will be formative to them and would help them, rather than, because I think inherently people come to a community college or any college, any higher education opportunity, and there's the fear of, can I succeed in the academics? And it almost overrides all of the other opportunities that might be there. And to have that comfort, to know, as you pointed out, that it's a place where it's friends and it's home and it's a sense of community and a sense of belonging and the ability for us to all be together and having a similar experience. Sharing those things, amazing, and probably would bring down any freshmen coming in, to the point where they would be like, maybe I can do this, right? And then they learn from things that you have said that this is doable, and maybe I don't need to be as intimidated or as fearful as I might initially have been. So that was perfect, Chris.
Thank you.
We didn't plan that.
We didn't rehearse that at all. No.
Just kind of slipped it in. That is wonderful. And I swear to you, my friend, we will do more pop-ups.
Sounds good.
Conversation is now that the campus will be remote through May. So we'll
Yep.
continue to observe social distancing and have limited exposure at the campus. But come summer, hopefully, or even that coming fall, the pop-ups will be back on the table.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, so from somebody that works around investment research, I can tell you full vaccine deployment probably won't be until the beginning of early 2022. That just meaning, so that'll be the latter half of the tail. So the early vaccine draw out will probably be early 2021, depending on what the trials look like. And then, the younger people probably won't be vaccinated until the end of 2021 or early 2022, it sounds like. So
Interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, just being an investment nerd over here.
I think that's awesome. And I know that there'll be great mentoring opportunities likely for you with our current students in the future.
Yeah, actually, I would be immensely interested in taking a look at something like that because, that pay it forward dynamic, I mean, it's really invaluable. And, the mentors that I've had, I can say without a doubt, there's certain things I never would have understood if I didn't have a mentor. So
Interesting. Well, what I'll do is I'll connect you with Maria Vitone after our interview here, and you guys can have a conversation. But in the meantime, what a pleasure, Chris.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Troy, for doing these, and keep it up, and keep pushing up the alumni engagement. I really do appreciate the work that you're doing for NHCC right now around that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a sacred charge, and I'm for me, it's just something that absolutely needs to be done. And I am grateful, Chris, for proud alums like you that want to give back to the institution. Our alumni base is incredible. Over these interviews I've done over the last 6 months, it has been a joy and a privilege. So I
salute you.
Thank you. And if I would have had my coffee mug ready, as you know, sometimes I do have the coffee mug ready, but Chris is there for me. He's got all of this.
I got your back.
It's got my back. Yep. Exactly. So we're covered. All right, my friend. Well, we clearly need to do a part 2 in the near future.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, definitely let me know whenever you need that. And, whatever I can do in terms of, helping out at alumni engagement, anything like that, just let me know.
Thank you so much. Everybody, I give you Chris McSweeny.